I'm ready. Don't worry.
Okay.
So, are you DTFF?
Once again, here is Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football with your hosts, Dustin Lunt and Jake Trowbridge.
Well, welcome back to the Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football podcast. We have an excellent show this evening. Two very special guests with us. We are talking the NFC West, the start of our divisional breakdown series here, talking all things with one of the most interesting divisions, I feel like, in the NFL. So first thing I got to do, though, is introduce my co-host, Jake Trowbridge. Jake, how are you doing this evening, sir?
Doing so good. I'm ready to get into this. I don't even want to waste any more time on me, quite frankly. I just want to pass the baton here.
All right. So the first of our illustrious guests this evening is Russ Fisher. You can find him at Dynasty Outhouse. Russ, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm glad to finally be here. And I say finally because I think Jake's been on like 3 or 4 of the shows I'm associated with, and I just now finally got the invite here.
I wanted to make your first time very, very special. All right. And I think that we're on our way to doing that. I just want to put that out there.
The candles are lit, the roses are out. Yeah, I'm feeling it.
Yeah, and I just want to say I was really excited to have you on because I finally get a fellow Letterkenny fan on the pod, and I can't get Jake to start watching it for whatever reason, so I can't talk about it with anyone. So I'm glad I finally have you on.
Wait. Do you hate funny things?
Can we not have this be a place of judgment right now? Can we just skip over the part where everybody
I have no idea what it is, by the way.
Thank you, Andrew. And without further ado.
Yes, our other guest this evening is Andrew Metcalfe. How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm doing well, man. Doing all right. It's finally April, so the countdown to the draft can come around. All the speculation can in. We can finally figure out where all these quarterbacks are going.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be such a disappointment, I think, for everybody, because we always think that we know what's gonna happen, and then it never happens.
Any idea.
And then we melt down, and it happens every single year. It's a beautiful rotation, a beautiful transfer of seasons. It goes from optimism to meltdown immediately.
Right, we have all these nice, cushy landing spots in our head, and it literally never works out that way.
But that is the one good thing about being a Seahawks fan, because most years they just trade away their firsts, and I don't have to worry about them screwing it up.
Hey, dude, I'm a Rams fan. Like, I haven't watched the first day of the draft in like 10 years. Like,
exactly, right?
I thought the first round was like this, just an honorary ceremony. Like, oh, people actually make picks in the first round. Okay.
This is just where they danced.
See you in 2025. Maybe we'll make the first round pick there.
Yeah, I'm setting myself up for sadness again this year when the Packers draft another quarterback in the first round, just to give Rodgers another chip on his shoulder.
We'll draft A.J. Dillon's back up.
Yeah, there you go.
We're going to trade up to draft Trevor Lawrence. We're going to give away every other contender on our team and every future pick. It's going to be pretty cool.
Trey Sermon in the second is going to be such a good fit.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be awesome. All right, so before we get into the meat of our show, we've got a couple housekeeping things that we always take care of. So, gentlemen, this is the Drinking and Talking podcast here. So are either of you drinking this evening? And if so, what are you drinking?
I will just say I have a clear liquid in my cup.
That's all you have.
Keeping it simple.
And if you are not drinking, that is okay too, by the way. We do not try to force anybody. We will take care of that up top. You guys don't have to worry about it. But if you are.
I got some of Ireland's finest tonight. Some Jameson, a little bit of Coca-Cola. So it's nice. It's kind of like one of my smooth wind down drinks for the evening.
I like it. This is a post St. Patty's Day special here. We didn't drink any whiskey on St. Patrick's Day, by the way, Dustin. That was a real our bad here.
Yeah, that was a bad.
And surprise, I'm actually not Irish, in case you were wondering. I'm not. I just like to drink.
Oh,
but you enjoy.
I just wanted to clear that up,
and that's fine too.
So why do they call you Red?
That's a different story.
That's for off air, huh?
Right after hours.
Well, we are. Yeah, I'm excited about this beer because for those of you who don't know out there, and our guests, if you don't know, Dustin and I live right next door to each other. So what we started coming back to doing was we actually drink the same thing now. We never used to do that. We just whatever we wanted to drink, we're going to do. But not so long ago, we would try and match up what we're drinking to give an honest, forthright review and maybe keep it local. So this evening, we're drinking from Potosi, which is a Wisconsin brewery. It's in northern corner. Yeah, right in that down spout. We're drinking a Northern Method Doppelbock. Dustin and I talk all the time about our favorite beer styles. Doppelbock is right up the top for me. And I've already been drinking it, and I got to say I love it. Dustin, do you like it? Do you hate it?
I like it. It's a little on the caramely side for me, a little sweet. But it definitely comes in potent at 8.5%. So I do like that.
Oh yeah, that's a nice. That's a nice buzz for sure, right there.
Yeah, we're gonna be fine. We got a couple of tall boys ready to go here. I think we're gonna be good. Russ brought a dog into the picture, and I feel like we need to address it.
Absolutely.
This is Chukabaka. She's a monster.
Excellent.
My daughter is 5, and we were watching the dog show after the Thanksgiving parade, and there was this big brown fluffy thing, and I'm a huge Star Wars person, so my kids know what it is. And she's like, I want a dog and I want to name it Chukabaka. Like she tried to say Chewbacca and just sort of messed up a little bit.
Sure.
And she can say Chewbacca, but kept rhyming with it. She's just like, no, I want a dog named Chukabaka. So we're like, all right, we got a dog named Chukabaka.
Chukabaka, that's awesome.
If you're gonna be stubborn about it, you gotta be a united front at least.
It's like one of those, I didn't make a mistake. That's what I meant to say.
It's all about having confidence. Just confidence.
Yep, that's right. That's incredible. Well, Dustin, do we want to transition? Again, I don't want to waste too much time up front. Do we want to dive right into our favorite segment?
Yeah, hit us with our drunk trade of the week, Jake.
Done and done. All right, gentlemen, we're going to need your assistance here as well, evaluating this drunk trade. So if you haven't listened before, we do one per week. Somebody submits to us. They're delightful. I appreciate all of you on Twitter who do this, by the way, because it's opening yourself up to a little bit of trauma. So this week's comes in from @AndrewHallFF. I was on vacation a couple of weeks ago, he says, and about 8 beers deep, I was going back and forth with this guy, and he countered one last time. For some context here, I am real bad at QB, but that doesn't matter in March. I don't hate the trade, but I had immediate regrets after accepting. To be clear, was not his worst drunk trade, just his most recent drunk trade. Oh. So Andrew sent away Josh Jacobs and a 2021 206 rookie pick. He got in return for that. I'll preface this by saying this is a Superflex 12-team Dynasty PPR league. Okay. He got back Kirk Cousins, Devin Singletary, Kenyon Drake, a 2021 305 and 310, a couple of thirds. Gentlemen, how do we feel this drunk trade panned out for dear old Andrew here?
Okay, let me try and help him a little bit. First of all, I talked to this dude yesterday, and he did not, in fact, bring up this trade. So he was clearly repressing it a little bit. He gave up. He got a quarterback without giving one up.
Yeah,
that's the positive. That's what I got. Good.
Okay. I like it. It's just the last half full.
Right? I'm trying.
I mean, yeah, oh man, that one is hard to defend. I feel like 2 years from now, this is gonna be one of those trades. He looks back and it might end up just like kind of setting his team back in a few years. Because I think Kirk Cousins, he might be the only like fantasy relevant part of the other side. But yeah, like Drake, who was the other one? Singletary and a couple of third rounders. Yeah. I don't know, man. Like I know everybody is ready to bury Josh Jacobs, but he's still an RB2, right? Like he's not just gonna be like just disappear from any type of
He
relevance.
was a fringe RB1 this past season. To be
exactly,
fair.
yeah. So even I know like Drake is coming in and everybody's kind of freaking out over it, but no, I'm not a fan, man. Especially Josh Jacobs, he'll be a 25-year-old free agent next year too. So even like if you don't like the situation, like he came in the league so young, he's gonna hit free agency when he's still in his prime. So, but yeah, I guess like Russ said, you got a quarterback out of it. That's about it. But I'm not.
So if you make no trades for the next 4 years, you're set because Kirk Cousins will probably be the only guy in this trade that is still playing at a decent level.
Absolutely,
so,
right.
you got to play this trade in a 4-year window.
4 year, right?
Hey, the long game. Sometimes these do work out in the long run. Who knows? We could be talking about Josh Jacobs as a RB3 fill-in for some reason at the end of next season because things just tanked for him. They went completely wrong. Yeah, Kenyon Drake, that's interesting. Dustin, Kenyon Drake versus everything else in this trade. Is he not maybe the lowest piece?
I don't know. Devin Singletary is not very high in my book either. I guess you got 2 dart throws and the 2 third-round picks. Those could hit you could hit a Darnell Mooney or something where you strike gold. So you got a couple dart throws. So.
Yeah. So yeah, super flex. Sometimes like the wide receivers and running backs kind of fall. So I would say like early third might be a decent pick there.
Yeah, but overall, you got Kirk Cousins. That's about it. The rest of it's nothing to write home about. So not a big fan of this either.
I have both seen and made worse drunk trades. So let's just put it that way.
Trades. no judgment.
I was trying to keep the theme on going. I think if you've ever listened to my show for about 3 seconds, you've heard bad trades I've made.
I think it's good news, bad news here. The good news is that it's just the most recent trade. The bad news is that this was not the worst drunk trade. So it's tough. But yeah, look, Andrew, we all love you here. So just feel confident that going forward, you will make better trades than this. I think that's
or just drink more so you never remember them.
Uninstall Sleeper when you drink.
Dustin and I have talked so many times. I think there is money to be made here. There has to be like a pre-trade breathalyzer that you can install via app.
You have they have for email where you have to do like some math problems.
Yeah, or I do a couple equations or something. Yeah. I've heard about that. Yeah,
I think it's a Gmail extension. Yeah.
That's $1 million concept. Sleeper, just get on with this already. All right, I'm glad we're all in agreement
now, and you do something that matters.
More mascots. I actually like the mascots, but I understand.
Yeah, I don't mind them either. Right.
I'm not in the majority when it comes to the mascot love, and I get that. So I just like Russ said, I want them to pile on with the mascots personally. But all right, before we get into the meat of the episode. Again, this is the NFC West. We're not playing around for this introductory breakdown here. Although I do want to point out, we did not bring on a 49ers fan, and I feel like that's intentional because we just want to talk trash about the 49ers for this entire...
all here for
no
defense.
Trash
about the Niners.
But before we get into that 49ers trash talk, DTFF is brought to you by Monkey Knife Fight. Look, football is over. Sure, I get it. The draft is almost here, and that's something. But until you can actually sink your teeth into an NFL game again, you can also go over to monkeyknifefight.com, try out the other sports. We were just talking before we got on air here. Andrew was talking about Formula One racing that he's getting into. I'm trying to expand my sports horizons here. I feel like Monkey Knife Fight can at least help. You just head over there. You make some selects. Right? You do the simple thing of choosing more or less for a stat line. It's so easy. And if you're good at it, you win money. And sometimes if you're not good at it, you still win money by being lucky. So go over to monkeyknifefight.com. Use promo code DTFF and you will get matched on your initial deposit up to $50. So again, monkeyknifefight.com, promo code DTFF.
All right. Thank you, Jake, for that. So, getting into the NFC West here, we are going to start with the Arizona Cardinals. Why Arizona? Starts with the A, first in the alphabet. I don't know. I don't have a good reason. So they were 8-8 in the division and placed third overall. And they've had an interesting offseason here. Really more for real NFL purposes than fantasy football purposes, I feel like, with their defense, signing J.J. Watt, getting that big name. But for fantasy football, they lost Kenny and Drake, which we just talked about, Dan Arnold, and most likely we're looking at Larry Fitzgerald not being back on the team. And I say that because they brought in another old man, A.J. Green, to the squad. So what do you guys think? We'll start with that. What do you think of that swapping out A.J. Green for Larry Fitzgerald?
I think that someone had a side bet somewhere about keeping their average age at a certain level. And they're like, oh, crap, Larry's going to retire. What do we do? Who's the oldest wide receiver? With A.J. Green, let's do it. That's the only thing I could think of as to why they did this.
He's the next best up. They're like, well, we can't get these guys out of retirement to actually physically play for us.
Yeah.
So let's
Julio
see
Jones isn't coming over. Julian Edelman probably isn't coming over. Who's the next best we can get? Oh, AJ Green is a free agent? That's so easy. Let's just do that.
They just want to be the last step for all the legends on their way out. It's kind of the swan song stop. But hey, to be honest though, I mean, if they, I actually expect them to still draft the receiver within the first 2 rounds of the draft. But I mean, if they don't end up drafting anybody, I don't know. I guess I'm a sucker for the hits. Like I still think AJ Green, you probably will have worse options to, plug in your flex on like week 8 when you got 2 bye weeks, 4 injuries. Like, I don't hate it. Like, there was a time when he was in Cincinnati that he was kind of starting to get a little bit of a groove with Joe Burrow when they stopped sending them out on deep routes. Like, that was the issue. Like, they started off the year, they were still trying to use him like, 2015 AJ Green, and he just he can't separate when you get 10 or 15 yards down the field. So I think once like Higgins and Green kind of switched their roles, and he was kind of that more like that intermediate short route guy. I don't know. I'll still have AJ Green on the end of a couple benches, but I know I'm in a minority on that probably.
No, man. Okay, no. If you want to try and be serious about it, which is just completely killed the vibe. But I mean, that's absolutely the right answer, because AJ Green has never not been the guy, right? From the second he was drafted to Cincinnati. Well, I guess Chad Johnson was probably still around, I think, back then for a little bit. But regardless, I can't remember anymore. That was way too long ago.
I think he was maybe right after Chad. Yeah, they were pretty close.
Yeah, my brain can barely remember 4 days ago at this point. But like, he's pretty much always been the guy there. We've never really seen AJ Green be a number 2. Like, let's face it, he's the number 2 behind DeAndre Hopkins, which, 99.9% of wide receivers in the NFL would be the number 2 behind DeAndre Hopkins. But like you were saying before, like, that's great. Like, he's not going to have to deal with the double coverage. He's not going to have to deal with these deep routes because they have fast guys for that. This is like what they did for Larry Fitzgerald, right? Like, he was an outside guy, and they're like, all right, dude, you're still great, but let's face it, you don't got the speed anymore. Mm-hmm. Slide in, run some nice crisp routes, and, AJ Green's going to play till he's 43, just like Larry Fitzgerald did. And every year we're going to be like, no, this is the year he retires. I'm going to trade him away. This is the year he's going to retire.
So am I hearing you're both pretty lenient with the AJ Green compared to what we saw last year, which of course was nobody's like friend. Necessarily. Exactly. But so maybe he's an older, wiser Corey Davis. Like, he can't be the number 1. He has to be the number 2 somewhere. He can be fantasy relevant. Larry was wide receiver 78. Wide receiver 74. Apologize for the disrespect.
Right.
Larry.
Give him his credit, Jake.
I'm assuming we can get on board with him being better and more serviceable from fantasy than that. Yeah.
Like, I traded for AJ Green. I traded like a 23 third. And like, what's the risk in that? Literally nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
And like Andrew was saying, like, if I can fill him in for 1-2 weeks and I can get wide receiver 3 numbers, beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. So does this move then Christian Kirk down on their depth chart? Is AJ Green now the number 2 on that team?
I don't think so.
I would prefer him over Kirk. I was never a Kirk fan. I think he kind of lives off. He's kind of like Marvin Jones, but even more inconsistent. Like, he'll have that monster game, and everybody like, all right, Kirk has arrived, he's here, and then just disappear for 4 or 5 weeks. So I was never a fan of Kirk, but I think they wanted a legit threat opposite of Hop. So I'll take him.
Speaking of disrespect, throwing Marvin Jones under the bus for no reason.
I said Marvin Jones light. That was
because the thing is they run 4 wide, as they're pretty much base set. So it's not going to take Kirk off the field at all, especially now that unless they draft a tight end, I don't even know if they have one on the freaking roster right now because Dan Arnold was the only guy I remembered. And Max, they had one of like the Max 17. Williams, he had one of like the 19 Baltimore tight ends that came over. But still, no, I think Kirk's going to still be on the field. I think he's going to be inconsistent, but Kirk has the ability to put up like a 30-point fantasy game out of absolutely nowhere. And the volume will be there in the offense. So again, he's another dude you don't have to pay a lot for. So if you can get him for late second, early third, and again, you fill him in 2-3 times and maybe you get lucky and he becomes an every week bottom of the roster starter. I'm saying this because I was always a fan of the guy, and I'm like crossing fingers that everything I'm saying is going to come true. But clearly, he can turn into absolutely nothing in 3 minutes. But
sure. I like what you called out about them being such a pass-heavy offense, though, because one, obviously with an injured quarterback last year and Kyler Murray, who he was still great for fantasy, but it's not as if he was perfect for his wide receivers. So there's room for that to still grow. Now, Dustin, if you recall, when we had Andy Holloway on, previously to kind of discuss his beloved Cardinals, he was still open to the possibility of them drafting another wide receiver to complement, even so high as maybe a top tier receiver in Devonta Smith. I don't know if you have that clip available to play, but if you do, I would love to just get your reactions to that.
Yeah, let me pull it up here real quick, like
Kyler quick, not like Larry quick.
To say they don't go after one of the big names in the draft, where they're sitting at 16. What if Devontae Smith's there? Is this the future? Are you going to bring in the next? Are you going to give up on Andy Isabella, so to speak, and then just bring in another future pillar of the offense?
So, do we think that there's room for another pillar of the wide receiving offense there?
Yeah, I actually mentioned that. Yeah, I wouldn't, like he said, I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a couple of mocks have like Jalen Waddle, something like that fall to him too. But no, I like it. Like Russ said, they run 4 wides on a regular basis, so they have places to fit a wide receiver if they grab another one. Since, like he said, Isabella, Hakeem Butler, Keyshawn Johnson, all of those experiments kind of fell off. I wouldn't be surprised if he loaded up on some more skill positions.
Such good names you just threw out there.
Hakeem Butler, I just dropped him off my last roster like a month ago. That was a tough one for me.
Look, he was the only guy of that body type on that team for 2 years, and I kept just being like, he's the only dude. He's they got DeAndre Hopkins. All right.
Reluctantly, I will concede.
So now, I guess he's taking. Some people are saying he has like the Darren Waller career path now. So hold him for about 3 or 4 more years. It'll pay off when they switch him to tight end when he's like 28. Yeah.
I love how we're going to say that about every tall, bad wide receiver now.
Switch him to tight end and turn him into Waller.
I love that.
Yeah. So speaking of tight ends, I know we talked that Dan Arnold is gone and they have whatever cast-offs from other teams. Does it really matter if they have a fantasy relevant tight end on their team? Like we were saying, they're always running 4 wide. Does it really matter? Or is there someone that can fill that role? I mean, there's not a lot out there left on free agency. Some old guys that are well past their prime.
Jordan Reed. That's about it, right? But if they draft Kyle Pitts, that's about it. Other than that, I probably wouldn't really care anything for the Arizona tight end.
Yeah, no, they're better off if they ever do play a tight end. It's one that can block well. I think that's what they're like. That's what Dan Arnold really was, right? Like you don't think of Dan Arnold the receiving savant in any way, shape, or form. He's a big dude, so he can catch some touchdowns, and that's what he did. But especially with a guy who runs around like Kyler does, you want someone who's big and kind of fast to be able to pass block a little bit. So no, I don't think they're going to really have a fantasy relevant tight end, or at least a consistently fantasy relevant tight end. words.
That was a lot of words. I'm proud of you for that, honestly. That was a hodgepodge to put together there. I secretly always wanted Kyle Rudolph to go to the Cardinals so that he could be out of everybody's life. You know, he would just go block.
Like the wasteland.
Yeah.
I wanted him on the Seahawks. I'm not going to lie. I mean, Gerald Everett is just fine, but he's a Seahawks player. Look, he's, big dude, can block really well, and he can. Only thing they ever use tight ends for is in the end zone, and that's what Kyle Rudolph does. He catches touchdowns. So like he was a perfect fit to me. And then the Giants, whatever, man. But
that's so random, right?
Yeah. So no, it's funny. Like I remember Kyle Rudolph coming into the league, and he was one of those guys with like Ladarius Green or all of these tight ends. We're just like, this is the year, man. This is his year.
He's coming back.
He's super athletic. He's gonna do it. He's the next guy. Then Visanti Shenko just catches 18 touchdowns and pushes Kyle Rudolph down. Like it was. I want Kyle Rudolph to be a thing more than anything, just because of something like that. It's just he was always the guy where this is the year. Next year it's gonna be next year. It's gonna be the.
You could pull out all those tweets from 2015 and rub them in everybody's faces. Now that he finally became a thing, like that's what you were hoping for.
Oh yeah, like I saved my Corey Davis tweets for what was that, like 4 or 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if only I was on Twitter for Devontae Parker, then I probably would have been able to rub those in too. And I'd have held on. I was about to say I keep those receipts, but I don't even know how to search on Twitter. So no, I don't. The search on Twitter is so ridiculously bad.
Cumbersome. I'll tell you what.
I've tried to search for a tweet before. Yeah, I didn't get far.
I don't even bother doing it anymore. If I can't scroll to find it, I'm not finding it.
It's gone.
All right, one last question here for the Cardinals, then we'll move on to one of your guys' teams here, where you can be a little bit more excited about it. So Chase Edmonds, right now he's the lead dog in that backfield. I'm assuming they're going to bring in someone else. Chances are it's not going to be a first-round pick, especially where they're picking. And then they've got one in the middle of the second round, but then nothing until the 5th. And I know there's some guys out there in free agency that haven't been signed yet, your Todd Gurley's or James Conner. Do you see one of those guys coming in? And do you see Chase Edmonds still being the 1A of what would be, I'm assuming, a committee at that point?
I mean, if they brought one of the guys, so like specifically Todd Gurley or James Conner, I think that'll be a win for Chase Edmonds. But I wrote an article about Edmonds a couple of weeks ago. As I said, I think he's a dead man walking. I think they're one of the teams that like running back has to be towards the top of their priority list in the draft. Because if you think about it, I mean they've had several opportunities to give Chase the job. Like when David Johnson fell off, they kind of had a chance to put him in there, but they decided to trade for Drake. Then even after the year, Drake could have walked, but they gave him the transition tag, and even now. So I just think Chase, he's one of those guys. He would be a great kind of 1A or secondary guy, but yeah, if you can get like an early second or something for somebody that's treating him as a starting running back right now, I wouldn't mind shipping him out.
Yeah, I think we've seen that Chase Edmonds can't handle a full workload. Anytime Kenyon Drake got hurt, David Johnson got hurt, he would look great for about 3 quarters and then bust up his ankle. It just seems to kind of keep happening. So I think it would be great if, like, James Conner is almost a perfect kind of fit back there because they're both kind of the same thing. I mean, Edmonds is a little faster, but to me, it would be better for Edmonds to either get someone, I made the joke about Trey Sermon before, but like get a straight up 2-down back in front of him, or get someone exactly like him. Because, if there's someone that's exactly like him, the chances are they'll do kind of what they did with Kenyon Drake, where they just randomly change them out for no real reason. Just, okay, this is your drive, you go. Like the Falcons used to do with Freeman and Coleman. There was no real reason. It wasn't situational. It's just like, no, you looked at me funny, so now it's your turn. Yeah,
fresh legs. We just want the freshest of fresh legs that we got over here. Let's send one of them in. I love Conner to the Cardinals. I'm a big fan of that, and I think it would do very well for the value there with Chase. I mean, Chase Edmonds was not unusable last year in those types of situations.
Yeah, he was like, what, RB25 or something?
RB25 in PPR formats. Yeah, man. I mean, if you can hit that with that limited of workload, that's great. Hey, you're a Lamar Miller, right? You're not a big time like 3-down back, and that's okay too. Not everybody has to be one.
There was like 20 minutes where he should have been one.
in Houston.
I'm telling you, it's
everybody goes to die.
Miami's not using him right. I'm telling you, he's going to go to another team. They're going to. No, okay, Houston. No, he's going to go to another team. They're going to use him.
I was a huge Dustin Foreman fan, so that was I was rooting against it. But unfortunately, just everybody took the L in that backfield.
I mean, let's face it. I think the real answer is Travis Etienne to the Cardinals.
I was going to say Javonte Williams, but yeah, I'll take Etienne too.
I'll take that too.
Yeah, everything I was saying about Edmonds, it's only if they draft, like I said, one of the top. I would say 4. So I would include like Gainwell if he goes there too. I would probably like him as
I think Edmonds is kind of screwed if Gainwell comes in because I think Gainwell's better than at what Edmonds does.
That's what I'm saying, right? Any of the top, like I said, those 4 rookie running backs, right? I think that'll be bad for Edmonds.
Yeah,
Like if all they do is like just Gurley, Connor, or one of the later running backs, then that I'll change my tune and I'll be in on Edmonds as like an RB2 might as well.
Let's all just wish for Lamar Miller to go there. And that way everybody's happy.
He'll be like that placeholder back to know that, all right, my guy is safe. They signed Miller.
Yeah, see, he's trying to keep up with Frank Gore. That's what I'm telling you. Lamar Miller, he's just going to get one contract and never play, but he'll be in the league just as long as Frank Gore was.
Well, Gore's trying to play with his son, who's
that's
the only now, so he's got one more year to go.
That's the only real reason. Like, has he said that? Because otherwise, I can't think of a real reason he's still in the league.
It has to be it. Like, why would you you're a 40-year-old running back going to the Jets? Like, what are you doing with your life? What else are you doing? He's just trying to run up the clock and play with his son. It'd be a cool story on ESPN.
Yeah, it'd be the first father-son combo in the NFL, and they'll make history.
I mean, Frank Gore already is 5th, I think, on all-time running, and by like a decent amount. So he's up there. And if anything, let's face it, at this point, it's just because he's still around. So
ultimate compiler.
Look, if he can get 200 yards the next 18 seasons, he's going to top that list eventually. So.
Exactly. Get 300-400 yards a year, take a rest, and sooner or later you'll be the rushing champion.
Right. Oh man.
All right. Well, let's move on here, Russ, to your Seattle Seahawks, team which Jake and I just love to hate here as Packer fans. They've heard us right here more times than I can count. So how are you feeling about your Seahawks here? I mean, they finished first in the division, 12-4 last year.
All right. So you want the real answer or the Seahawks fan answer?
No, real. We want real.
I've wanted Pete Carroll and John Schneider out of town for about 4 years now.
Oh,
from the second that the second the Legion of Boom died, Pete Carroll's had nothing. Like, you were able to hold on to a little bit because you still had, Richard Sherman. You still had Earl Thomas a little bit. You still had Cam Chancellor a little bit, and then they're gone. Everybody just. It's not the same, no matter what you do. And the league has changed at this point where getting guys like Shaq Griffin, who was pretty much Richard Sherman light, doesn't fit anymore because it's not all about the X receivers. It's about the slot guys. And their defense, besides their linebackers, are so slow. Their fastest player on defense is probably KJ Wright, which shouldn't be the case. Mm-hmm. So, no, I want them to be bad. It's really it's the worst thing to say. Like, I wanted them to trade Russ. I wanted, and everyone, it's funny. Like, everyone's like, you're such a spoiled fan that you're willing to let them trade Russell Wilson. And I'm like, yeah, no, yes, fine. I get that. But like,
did you hear what happened with the trade? How about how Pete Carroll shut it down? Like, apparently they had one done, but Pete Carroll was like, I'm too old to go through a rebuild. So they had a trade done with the Bears, like in principle. But apparently, Pete Carroll was the one that shut it down because he didn't want to go through a rebuild.
So just feeding your fire of hatred for Pete Carroll now.
The trade wasn't great. Like, I mean, there are going to be 3 late firsts in consecutive years. A dude and 2 dudes that they cut because they can't afford them anymore.
Kyle Fuller and who else was it?
Akeem Hicks.
Hicks, right.
Mm-hmm. And they're good. Don't get me wrong. They're probably better than most people that the Seahawks have on their defense. But when you're getting Russell Wilson, you want something.
You sound exactly like Dustin and I about 2 to 3 to 4 years ago in the Mike McCarthy tail end era of the Packers. It's just, look, we know what it is. We know what to expect. We're going to get to this point. We're never going to get further. Not a chance. So I was on that side of like, let's just tank a season to fully get this guy out of here and let's move on with our lives. Let's recalibrate next year. It sounds like a post-Pete Carroll world would be your dream at this
Absolutely.
point.
And it's funny, like I sit here calling the Seahawks mediocre and completely forgetting they somehow won 12 games last year. But that team wasn't good.
Russ is a magician, dude. Like, I hate playing
really
Russell Wilson.
Like,
he just does stuff that you're just not supposed to be able to get away with. It's so frustrating.
And they just picked the perfect wide receivers for him. And that's really all it is. The line is terrible. The running game was terrible. The defense is terrible. Russ Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. That's 5 wins on their own.
Right.
And towards the end of the year, they got Carlos Dunlap and Jamal Adams came back healthy. So their defense did get a little better. But I wanted them to miss the playoffs so bad. And of course, everyone's calling me, bad names and a bad fan. But it's just like it's for the greater good.
I gotta bite the bullet, Because being stuck in that middle phase is like the worst. When you just are barely a playoff team and you never get an early pick.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're going to make the playoffs. Like, I don't know what it is about the NFC West, but there's just, especially now that they expanded playoffs, I feel like 3 teams are always going to make it. Depending, and it's bad for the long run, and I'm ready for full on turnover. Just let's Browns it for a couple.
Ready
of years.
to lose.
You can tune out for a couple of seasons and just see what's what.
Look, I need a couple of seasons just to really focus on my fantasy. So Seahawks, just kind of lay down for a little bit.
Yeah. So is that relationship with Russ and management / Pete Carroll, is it like gone too far where this season is just going to be a train wreck between them, or how do you see that playing out now?
Yeah, Russ Wilson doesn't have it in him not to be a good soldier. It's
hard
like
to take
that's his personality, and it's corny as hell, but it's perfect. That's what a quarterback is supposed to be. And then he tries to have some swag, and it just comes off so bad. He is so lame.
Unlimited.
But he's
so weird.
I don't think he's stomping his feet or anything. If anything, he'll just keep it to himself until he finally ends up on another team, and then he'll have someone else put out a cryptic tweet for him. Yeah, it'll be like super passive aggressive. You won't even notice it.
It is the most noise he's made. It is the most noise he's ever made, though, isn't he?
It's such a weird situation, right?
Yeah,
it's like I don't want to be traded, but here's a list of teams that if you just happen to be talking with them, like. I don't get who does that.
Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson, exactly.
Mr. Talent himself does that.
That's right,
Mr. Unlimited.
Unlimited. Oh.
And I'll be honest, as a Packer fan, I'm glad the trade with the Bears didn't happen, because the thought of having to face him twice a year is terrifying. It really is. I mean,
with Robinson and Mooney, that would have been fun.
Oh, God, Russell Wilson to A-Rob, yes.
My fantasy team would love that, but my real life Sunday football would suffer so drastically.
That's what Red Zone's for.
Get them out of the West, dude. We got too many quarterbacks in here, especially like the 49ers about to get one too.
Yeah, but might pick the wrong one.
We can outlet a little bit of talent.
Yeah, well, can I just say right off the bat that like all of you now, all of our guests at this point have talked about how tough this division is. Basically, because all of you are agreeing on that, which I feel like is nice to have common ground, that you're all ready to admit.
Right?
This is a tough division. So you're all giving everybody at least a little bit of respect, which is just sweet. That's all I want to call it.
I mean, it's kind of the way it should be, right? Like, it should be respect blanketed in hatred. Kind of like, that's like I'm a Seahawks fan, but my favorite rivalry is still the Steelers and the Ravens, because behind closed doors, they'll say how much they respect the other one. But the second anyone's within like 6 miles of an earshot, they're dead. They're the worst. They're trash. It's the hardest games you'll ever see get played. And they'll be so angry when they're talking about it right after it happened, right before it happened. But then a week later, they'll be like, man, no, that's the Steelers. That's what they do. That's why we like playing against them. That's why we hate them. And it's just like, yeah, that's sports. That's what it's supposed to be. Like, you hate them because you kind of have to, but you respect the hell out of them. Like that's what I love. And it's funny, like my best friend's actually a 49ers fan. So we do have that same level of loving each other, but it's just like completely making fun of each other for it.
I really hope the NFL starts adopting like rivalry night for Thursday night football. Like Thursday night football should only be divisional games.
Oh, that would actually be great.
When the Jets used to play the Patriots all the time when they sucked, like they were just, it was rare that it was just complete blowout when you have those divisional games. But I think that'd be a great idea because, like you were saying, it's just it's always a little bit something extra when you're playing a division.
At NFL,
people said it. Like I'm not the only one. Like people,
I've never heard that before, so I'm going to say it's your idea. So
it was Andrew's idea from henceforth.
Maybe my retweet would be like the last straw to finally get it.
Let's do it. Tweet it out.
Idea.
I'll retweet that.
Thursday night football rivalry day or rivalry night.
And like it's just that markets itself. It's brilliant. It's
exactly right.
Brought to you by Andrew Metcalfe. I mean, let's do it.
I'll take a little cut off of it.
So free agency for Seattle. Not much to talk about. I put in the show sheet here their notable losses, and I use that term lightly because I don't feel like any of these losses for you were big hits to the team. You had Carlos Hyde, Philip Dorsett, David Moore, and Jacob Hollister. You retained Chris Carson, which I think is good for the team itself. And then, as you already brought up, Russ, brought in Gerald Everett over from the Rams. What are your thoughts on those free agency moves?
Well, I love to bring back Carson. You're never going to have another Marshawn Lynch is what it comes down to. Chris Carson is the closest they've had. He's the only good, consistent player they've had. It sucks that he will miss 4 games every single season. But I like him. And as a player, it seems like he's a great person as well. So I'm so happy they brought him back. I liked bringing in, that's the word, Gerald Everett. He's good. He was always good. He was sort of squished in a Rams offense that had 2 tight ends, but doesn't like to use the tight end. So he needed to get out of there. I'm glad he did, and I'll absolutely take him, even though it doesn't really matter because the Seahawks don't use the tight end. They had Jimmy frickin' Graham and just used him in the end zone because that's what you do with tight ends in Seattle. So it's a cool
Jimmy Graham.
Well, it was Jimmy Graham before he was completely dead.
34-year-old, Jimmy Graham.
Hey, he was fine with the Bears last season, all right? He was fine. He was a competent old man, and he did what he had to do.
I say this in complete jest, but I probably could have ran just as fast as Jimmy Graham did last season. Watching him run made me tired. It was tough to watch. But no,
he has to rev up to get like 5 yards down the field.
But no, he wasn't completely dead on his first year or 2 on Seattle, and they still just did not use him whatsoever. I loved the signing. I'm like, wait, but why did they? I'm like, oh man, they traded for Jimmy. Why did they trade for Jimmy Graham again?
Certain teams just it doesn't really matter who the tight end is. He would just be in like the field of like the other 20 streaming tight ends that you just whoever catches the touchdown pretty much.
It's exactly what Gerald Everett's going to be. He's going to be somewhere in tight end 8 to 29.
And a huge tier, right?
Yeah.
That giant beefy middle of tight ends that you don't even want to touch in your draft, probably. Yeah. Now, I am very curious because this is the only overlap. I mean, this is interdivision that this happened, or interdivision. Sorry. I know the difference between words.
In the same division.
In the same division. Gerald Everett skips teams. Thank you for that save, Russ. But he goes from the Rams to the Seahawks. So you're kind of meh about this, Russ, it seems like, from a signing standpoint. From a loss standpoint, Andrew, just since we're on the topic, are you fine with that? Are you excited for Higbee because of that? Do you care about this literally at all?
Yeah, to be honest, we're kind of similar to, I guess, the NFC West, and now I think about it, well, other than the 49ers, obviously, it's kind of just a dead tight end division. Because, again, it's just, I mean, it was, when you combined, like, Higbee's and Everett's numbers, it was still, like, well, outside of that, like, crazy stretch he had at the end of, 2019, it was still just kind of like, maybe you get tight end 12 or 13. So I would say, I mean, as far as Everett, man, this may make Higbee a little bit more more consistent, maybe like more of that 10 to 12 range, but still, it's just these teams are just not they're run by the receivers and the running back. So tight end is just not a priority for either one. So I'm mad about it. And like I said, I just kind of want to comment on the Chris Carson thing. I was pretty vocal about like my love for Rashad Penny, and I was still holding out hope. So that was still kind of a blow for me. Like
one of the reasons
I really thought he was gonna take a step.
One of the reasons I'm glad they constantly trade away their first round pick. That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Come on, he's the Hakeem Butler of that backfield. You just have to hold for another 8 years, and then he will be dynamite.
Like a Carlos Hyde, Frank Gore type of career, just get better with age.
But without all the good first part of it, it's just going to be the tail end once they hit like 30.
Exactly, yeah. Just pour one out for Penny.
That's a good T-shirt.
All right. And then this is going to be more of a redraft question here for you guys. Since we are mostly redraft focused, this time of year we talk a little bit more dynasty. But with the two wide receivers there in Seattle of Lockett and Metcalfe, who would you rather have at their current ADP?
Right, based on the value.
Yeah,
it's still DK for me because I don't know if Lockett. He seems like one of those players that he's probably better for like his real life NFL team than he is necessarily for fantasy. Because I know a lot of people like to take like the big swings and the upside, but I don't really like those guys where if he's gonna score 3 touchdowns or 3 points. Like you just never know what they're gonna do with Tyler Lockett from week to week. So yeah, even if I don't know where he's been drafted, what 3rd round, 4th round. I'm hoping
Lockett
he's not in the 2nd round.
Much later.
No, I'm sorry, DK.
Oh no, yeah, DK is probably 2nd round.
Well, 2nd round's pretty high, but I probably I would still just take the monster in DK.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, you can see the evolution of DK Metcalf, not by DK Metcalf, but by Tyler Lockett's fantasy scores.
He's just fading.
Yeah. And this season there was one game, that one weird game where Patrick Peterson just shut down DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett went for 206 yards and 3 touchdowns or whatever the hell it was.
It's insane.
But like that was literally a quarter of Tyler Lockett's points this year. That game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was going to ask because did not Tyler Lockett actually exceed Metcalf in total targets for the season this year? Like he just scraped by. I'm assuming it's because of that game. Literally,
yeah. He probably got about 17 targets in that game. No, I like Tyler Lockett. I've always been a fan of him. I always, in the beginning, when he wasn't being used as much, like I wanted him and Doug Baldwin to be such a thing. And then they drafted DK, and I'm just like, all right, that's okay. And then when they started together, they were doing really freaking like at that time. Like DK, like what was that last year? DK's rookie year. I feel like at this point it feels like it's been forever. But like there was a time where you could use both of them in fantasy, and then the start of this year, you're like, okay, maybe, and you're like, okay, no, this is DK's team, yeah, and exactly. And every year, Pete Carroll comes out and says, "Up next year, we're going to establish the run again," and it's just, I don't care how much later you take Tyler Lockett. I have him on 0 dynasty teams. I'm not going to draft him on any redraft teams.
Yep.
Yeah, I had him last year on my SFB team, and the 1 week where he went off, it was great. But the rest of the season, it was. I mean, I kind of felt like I had to start him because.
Did you play him that game though?
Yeah, I did. And I won that week, so I had one good win there, but the rest of the time it was just painful to have him in your lineup.
Yeah. All you guys are gonna miss out on his 900-point game next year, and you're gonna feel real sheepish about this take. I'm just saying.
I mean, I guarantee I'm going against him too in every one of my leagues that week.
Yeah. That's how it always goes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to your Rams here, Andrew. They were 10-6 last year, finished 3rd in the division. No, that should be 2nd. I know how to type in based on the So 2nd in division at 10-6. They've had a pretty big offseason, I guess you could say here, trading away their number 1 pick to Detroit and getting Stafford back in return. how do you feel about this trade, and do you consider it an upgrade over Goff?
So yeah, I had mixed feelings about this trade when it first came out. There were just a lot of emotions coming in at me. Like I guess like saying I kind of just saw like sticker shock just when I saw like the 2 first-round picks attached to it. But I mean, the more I looked at it and I really dug into it, like Goff, like I had always kind of been a Goff defender, like even just outside of being a Rams fan, just for fantasy in general. Like he's always like a top 12, 13 quarterback. Like, not much more you can ask for that. But he regressed so badly this past year. It was just I didn't even like recognize him from his first couple of years with McVay, and just especially with the deep ball in particular too. That was the reason why just towards the end of the year, Cam Akers, he was getting all these carries, but like teams would just stack the box against him because they had no respect for our deep game. So I think bringing in Stafford, who has the better arm, better deep ball accuracy. Deshaun, like the 3 or 4 games that we'll get him for, I'm sure like that'll probably be fun. But I think I've settled on it now that I'm excited about it. Like I mean, the first round picks, hopefully they'll be just late first rounders, and if we can make another Super Bowl run in this 2 or 3 window we'll have, I'll rather take that than chasing first round picks every year. Because hey, you want to know a time where Rams did have a lot of first round picks when they were losing games with Jeff Fisher every year. So sometimes having a first round pick is not everything. So at the end of the day, I'm excited about it. I think McVay can finally kind of he can take the training wheels off of his offense and do what he has been trying to do for the last couple of years. So. We'll see.
I fucking love that perspective, by the way, of the picks. And when we have picks, it's because we're losing. Because that is my thought in fantasy football.
Picks, like, dude, we had so many bad first round picks that just sucked. Like, dude, I'll take winning games over picks.
100%. Yeah, that is me in fantasy football. I trade away all my early picks. I don't want to deal with it. Like, I'll take the Matthew Stafford of the world in exchange for these picks because I don't want it to be on me to make the right decisions.
Right. But yeah, as far as like fantasy wise, I think like Stafford, picture him kind of at the first half of 2019 remember the Jim Bob Cooter era when everybody kind of got all hyped about Stafford again. Mm-hmm. I mean, it fell off, but I think like with McVay, we're gonna get the Jim Bob Cooter Stafford again, like top 10 fantasy quarterback. Like I'm probably being a homer about it too, but I'm excited, man. I think we'll kind of get back to those exciting McVay offense days versus trying to. Like at this last year, it kind of turned into McVay kind of managing Goff and trying to keep him from like losing the game. So now we can kind of get after it again. So
how can we not make you fuck this game up?
Exactly. And you can tell like McVay he just used to be so stressed calling plays on the sideline because he's just like, God, I want to call this, but fucking Goff, dude. He's gonna fuck it up. I know he is. All right, just do a dive with Akers. So he can't call this. So, but yeah, I think we'll kind of get back to the I almost said greatest show on turf. Not that far back, but like 2017, 2018 rounds when the Wonder Boy McVay came around.
I mean, think about it. Like exactly, the Wonder Boy McVay was forced to play 2 tight ends. Like that's not what he's supposed to be playing, but that's how bad his quarterback was.
And that was part of the offensive line too, which our offensive line got better. But yeah, part of that was just we needed an extra offensive line in to block back in 2019. But that was another thing that we stayed healthy, and if they can stay healthy, like I said, I like Akers too. As I'm all aboard the Akers RB1 train.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm terrified of this team. I will say that. Like this team with a real quarterback is scary. Like we're getting back to. Remember, Goff was like the QB 4 that year.
He was QB 7. Yeah, like McVay's
that's what it was.
First year. Yep.
And now they have a real quarterback. Like that. Let's not put 2 words about it. Stafford's really damn good. And now he's going to be in a very good system with more than just one dude to catch the ball. Like this is going to be very good. And let's face it, their only real hole was quarterback. Like this team
pretty much
is really damn good. And it was like, I remember like, oh man, 2 first, all of this. Like, no, you go win your Super Bowl. That's what matters. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like you can't do it very often. Like you don't get as lucky as you're not lucky to do what the Patriots did. Let's put it that way. Like there was talent there, but like this isn't riding the rookie quarterback contract. So you have to just hurry it out. Like, no, like your team is this damn good. You don't have to build around. You have it. Go pay for the quarterback and go win, because 2 losing seasons, Sean McVay is probably fired. Maybe he drops back to offensive coordinator for a couple of years till he gets his chance again. They win a Super Bowl. He's never fallen back down. Mm-hmm. He'll jump into that boys club of always getting hired as a coach
Shanahan status.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll be like they'll probably be like going at it in the NFC West for the next 10, 15 plus years. That'll be pretty fun to see. But
and then Kyle Shanahan's son will be coaching the Seahawks. I'll take it.
I know.
Yeah, they did quite the fantasy football move where they knew they were a contender and just went all in, paid the first for the quarterback.
They're in win now mode.
Push them over the edge, you know. You gotta respect that. So I'm gonna play here a quick clip from Andy on his thought about Stafford to the Rams, and then want to get your guys' opinion on it.
Got to see the Matthew Stafford-led Rams yet, and as a Cardinal fan, I don't think I want to see that. I mean, I really love Matthew Stafford, and so it's just brutal to have him move into the division, because I want to see him have success. When you leave Detroit, you want to see those players have success. Sean McVay is a great coach, so this is why it's not fair. The Cardinals in this division, I mean, you're naming 3 teams that can all compete.
Any disagreements there with what Andy said?
No, like he should be scared. He's 100% right.
I love that. Oh, bring it down with some fire. Now, I want to ask, as a follow-up to Andy's interlude there, is, of course, he's nervous about Stafford now becoming basically, it sounds like, the trifecta from hell of quarterbacks, because now it's not just Kyler Murray that is leading their team, and we don't really have to worry about it aside from Russell Wilson. But also now we have Matthew Stafford and a QB to be determined for San Francisco, and we'll see who it is. But if it ends up with one of those top picks, like we think it's going to be, if it's going to be one of those top 3, you now have 4 quarterbacks in this division that can crush on any single game. What are your odds as fans of opposite teams here? Matthew Stafford in redraft, how high do you actually put him?
You don't have to. Like, where is he going to score, or where is he going to get drafted? Because he's still going to get drafted super late because he's Matthew Stafford. Where is he going to score? Easily top 10.
Okay.
Yeah, also like if I were doing like my quarterback range, I would probably have like QB 11, like right in that range. Yeah, 10 or 11, right that like the edge of QB 1.
And I think he'll outscore that.
Ooh, okay. I like that. Dustin, have you done your QB rankings yet?
I have not updated them since free agency started, and at this point, I'll probably just wait until the draft.
To the draft, right? Yeah, so much stuff is going to change.
If it makes you feel any better, I've never done rankings, so
I love it. You're my spirit animal, Russ.
I don't do things. So I talk. That's literally all I do. I've never written an article. I don't do rankings. I talk a lot.
Can you do an audiobook so I can just hear your life story at this point? Because that's all I really want. You don't have to write it. You can have somebody else talk it out for you.
If I would do that, I would literally just be laying in bed, just arms behind my head, and just reminiscing of days past and stuff like that.
The way it ought to be. But yeah, Matt Stafford, he creates a real problem for the division for sure. Mm-hmm. Dustin, I know I'm not just speaking for myself. We're so happy to have him out of the NFC North. Like, I take that trade of Jared Goff.
Absolutely.
All right, yeah. Now you can completely write the Lions out from doing anything for the next couple years.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what are you going to do?
Only hope.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to rank the QBs in your division right now, I don't know what I would do from a fantasy perspective. Kyler, to me, is still going to be the top. Mm-hmm. Everybody else below him gets real dicey.
Mm-hmm. To me, I'm still taking Kyler over Josh Allen. Both dynasty and redraft, because again, I think some people kind of forget because Kyler was still playing, but that shoulder injury really kind of hurt him. Like he still kind of had that rushing forward, but Kyler was like the QB2 for the most of the season, wasn't he? So
and he was crushing it in the beginning too. So I'm with you. Kyler easy first, and I'm glad I didn't have to make the decision. I did a startup for Trade Addicts 9, and I did something. And when everyone wants to trade backwards, you might as well just start trading up, right? Sure. So I ended up trading up for the 101 and the 103.
No.
And thankfully, I grabbed Mahomes first, and then thankfully Josh Allen went too, because I wanted Kyler. And I'm glad I didn't
so you
have
started
to.
off with Mahomes, Kyler?
Yeah, Mahomes, Kyler, and then I didn't have a pick until the end of the fourth.
Dude, for a decade, like a quarterback.
Yep.
So nice.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So I think we all agree that Stafford is an upgrade over Goff here. So which of those position players, whether it's wide receivers or one of the running backs, who gets the biggest uptick here in production with Stafford there?
Everyone.
Just everyone across the board.
That offense is going to be better, and everyone's going to benefit from it. Like that's like honestly the way it is. I think like Robert Woods is kind of like Marvin Jones-esque. So maybe he latches to him a bit. I love Van Jefferson, so I want him to be a thing. Will he? I don't know. He might be a little too buried, but
Josh Reynolds is gone.
Josh Reynolds is gone. Yeah.
Well, again, it's just like Deshaun will play 4 or 5 games, but as long once Deshaun is out, I think Van he'll get 6 or 7 targets a game, kind of like what Reynolds was getting. And to me, towards the end of the season, there were some games where Reynolds and Kupp were kind of hand in hand, and they were kind of behind Woods as kind of the 2A, 2B. But I think, kind of like what you said, Russ, I think if I had to call out one player, I would say, Robert Woods is probably I think the target discrepancy between Woods and Kupp is kind of start favoring Woods a bit, just because Goff, he was just really close on a personal level to Kupp. Like, I think like they were roommates through training camp. They were just really close. So Kupp was kind of his, his safety valve, where Stafford is a bit of a different type of quarterback that doesn't mind pushing the ball down. So I think, Woods have kind of become the clear one now, with, Kupp becoming a 1B or 2A, kind of in between Woods and like whoever the third receiver is going to be.
Yeah, so Woods has always been flirting with that wide receiver 1 territory. Do you see him getting into that top 12 this season?
It'll come down to touchdowns. He's kind of like with DJ Moore. Like, he only scores 3 or 4 touchdowns, but if he has like a 6 or 7 touchdown season, he can easily be a top 10 receiver, especially when you include the rushing attempts too. He'll have 2 or 3 of those outside sweeps a game, and he can take them to the house. He's like one of those sneaky fast type of dudes, where like it doesn't look like he's like burning people, but like you see him, like he has the big play ability. So again, I can't. It's hard to predict touchdowns, but he'll probably kind of be in that same range of the borderline wide receiver 1.
Robert Woods, you just hear his name and you're like, that guy can't be fast. Robert Woods, like there's no way this guy is that quick, and he gets every time. As somebody who is a huge Robert Woods fan, especially this past season, and I just have him literally everywhere. All of my teams have Robert Woods because I can't get away from him. I'm very excited about what you're both saying here.
Yeah, man, especially like when guys like that, they kind of start off slow. They never shake kind of that, that sleeper. Like Robert Woods, like if he started off and had a career or like a rookie season like CeeDee Lamb or Higgins or something, people probably would be considering him as
so not in Buffalo.
Yeah, exactly. Like not in Buffalo, right? A top 10, top 12 receiver. But it's like when you suck to start off, like it's the same with Ryan Tannehill. Even though like he's a QB1, but you still don't really associate with him with that because you just had all those bad years, right? Sure. Oh man, that is such I never thought I would see so much Sam Darnold talk on Twitter. It's like can't wait to see how that all shakes out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to say the least. I'm excited for it. I think that's a good move that the Panthers did here. Getting off topic though. So Cam Akers, is he the real deal? Is he going to be an RB1 this season?
I love Cam. So as far as the 2020 rookies, I would take like JT is the only one I would take clearly above Cam. I kind of have Cam Akers and Swift kind of back to back, or kind of on that same tier of kind of the borderline wide receiver ones that if they get the receiving work, well, Swift will have the receiving work, but if Cam Akers get the receiving work that like Malcolm Brown used to, which I'm expecting, because Malcolm Brown was actually the 3rd round back for the Rams. It wasn't Darrell Henderson because he was the blocker. So with Brown gone, like if Cam Akers takes on that 3rd down role, in addition to like he already has the red zone role, he was the clear lead over Henderson. Even towards the end of the season when Henderson was healthy, before he got hurt again, like Cam was out carrying him like 20 to, Henderson would get him for like 2 or 3 carries. But yeah, it'll come down to that passing volume. Like if he, starts getting 5 or 6 targets a game, he's like a top 5 wide receiver for me.
Yeah, I mean, he said that. That's good. I agree.
Do you have any concerns at all about his? Because there is some comparisons to be made for CEH and Cam in like the red zone in terms of their efficiency. Because Cam Akers was not super efficient when he got his red zone opportunities. It was kind of that Clyde Edwards-Helaire level of like, oh man, why can't the guy just get in the end zone already? Do you have any concern about that, or is that maybe just more a function of the offense?
But the important thing is they never replaced him, so it doesn't matter.
That's fair. That is fair.
Right.
Like after a while, they pulled CEH from the goal line. They never pulled Cam. So, and like he was saying, like the offensive line for the Rams was like a work in progress for like a year and a half. So like
it came together, last year.
So if they can even build on that even more, just to get that push from that one, or just get him like a little spring in his shoes so he can get over them. There's no reason to think that he can't improve on that. So the fact that they didn't replace him, I think, speaks more than what his efficiency was or any of that. It doesn't matter as long as it's like drops for a wide receiver. That just means he's getting targets.
Right. 1 year they'll lead in trucks, and then the next year they like won't drop a single pass. Like that kind of stuff is just it's typically not sticky. And actually, I'm looking forward to seeing more Cam out of the Wildcat. Like remember, like they kind of ran him in the goal line in the Wildcat package on those playoff games. Like
I never like. Do you remember
a Wildcat
season when the Dolphins did the Wildcat for
when they first came out with it? Yep.
With like Ronnie Brown and all of that? Like there was enough that season that I never want to see the Wildcat again.
What about when the Dolphins used their kicker or punter last year in the Wildcat? Was that not pretty amazing though? You love to see that happen.
Okay, yes. Like anything that can glorify the punter a little bit, then let's do it.
Get him on the field, right?
Good.
But no, like I said, I'm wheels up for Akers. So I think, especially like I said, he was one of the leaders as far as stacked boxes faced. Just because, like I said, once they got towards the end of the year, it was like McVay. When Malcolm Brown is in, we're passing. When Cam Akers is in, we're running. So they just like anytime he was in, like people just stacked the box against him. So with Stafford on the line, I think it'll open up stuff for him. Jackson too. But I'm excited about it.
So is there any concern that, maybe they learned from the Todd Gurley experience a couple years ago where they ran him into the ground. He ended up with this arthritic knee, probably something he had before that. But maybe it is more of a split backfield now, and they don't want to wear down their number one guy.
I just don't think they'll pay him.
Exactly. I was about to say they don't care. Like they plug and chug these running backs. Just like you said, run them to the ground for 4 years and draft somebody else. Like I said, it doesn't catch up into them until they're Todd Gurley's age, and
that's the lesson they learned is the contract.
Right. They won't pay him.
Not running them to the ground.
All right. Plus, I mean, hopefully he doesn't get arthritis. Like I think like the Todd Gurley, that was just an unfortunate condition, and it's just once you get that diagnosis, there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, you can try to cut back on the snaps, but you can see even with Atlanta, like Gurley, he just didn't have it, dude. Like he was losing snaps to Brian Hill and Edo Smith, who else? Olsen, whoever, like they just
Quadre, my guy Quadre from early offseason. I wanted it to happen so bad.
So many times.
I was stashing for a little while. I didn't really keep him for too long, but he was kind of one of those late round stashes for me.
All right, well, let's move on to the bottom dwellers of the division here, San Francisco.
We didn't even invite anybody on for them. That's how little we think of the San Francisco 48ers. Am I right? Everybody?
F you, Shanahan.
So obviously they had their share of injuries last year, especially on the defensive side, which I think really impacted their, obviously the offensive play. And we see that Jimmy G is on his way out with the big blockbuster trade that San Francisco made to move up to number 3. I think we're all in agreement here. They are going to be drafting a QB at 3 here. That's a foregone conclusion at this point.
Right. Who's the QB though?
Najee Harris at 3.
Najee.
You just want to see the world burn, man.
Man. Will Jimmy G get a chance to start the season, or will that rookie QB just be plugged in right away and they're just going to go for it? I know Shanahan's been saying all the right things where Jimmy G's our guy and yada, yada, yada.
Heard that before.
That was in case the trade didn't go through. Let's put that out there. No, if they're smart, they don't let him touch the field again. There's no reason to. If you get a hair of a chance of trading him, putting him on the field is just going to make it worse. Because let's face it, he's not going to show anything that's going to raise his value. So you might as well just let him smile at the camera, and then that'll raise the trade value.
Hey girl, hey. No, it could end up being like a Miami situation where you do not want to wreck a young quarterback's confidence by keeping this old guy around who you don't even really want. Like that was the situation with Tua a little bit last year. I would hate for that to bleed into San Francisco, like you're saying about, like, don't even let that be a possibility. Personally, I don't want to see that happen.
No, the second they draft someone, they're going to say he's their guy. They're covering their bases. It's exactly what they're doing.
Right. It's just
That's exactly what coach speak in the offseason is. Just in case this doesn't work out, let me talk up this guy. Best shape of his life,
It's just a respect thing. Like even like when the Colts drafted Jonathan Taylor, Marlon Mack is the starter. Like we love him. He's a great guy. Like it's just I know Marlon Mack got hurt, but I mean, do we really think he would have held off?
And you could tell that they really did love him by giving him a contract after he blew his Achilles. That was really like Marlon Mack. We like you. You come back. Let me give you another check so you can get healthy and hopefully get a real contract next year somewhere.
And that's what I have a feeling that kind of I know this is a sidebar, but I think James Conner he might end up. I think the Steelers, they just kind of all right, go out there, see what you can get. If you can't get anything, we'll bring you back on like a minimum deal.
Such a Pittsburgh story. I hope they do that.
Exactly. I can see that type of thing happen too, because he just like physically, he just didn't have it. And I know COVID might have taken out of him, but I just don't really see a huge markup. Sorry, I know I kind of took it off to the sidebar talking about the Steelers, but.
That's fair. Anytime that I can talk about James Conner, I'm actually very okay with that because I just love that dude. And that story, you could not get a better story.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But no, I'm with Russ. Like if they especially what they traded to get that 103 pick. Personally, I hope it's still Justin Fields and all of this Mac Jones stuff is just like a big facade because I just like why do you need to trade up to 3 overall for Mac Jones? Like I don't think they wouldn't have had to trade up that high. So I think they're going to shock, well, at least some people, and go ahead with Justin Fields. And based on what I've seen from Fields, like I'm really surprised that he's kind of falling below Wilson. Like I thought it was going to be like Lawrence Fields kind of written in concrete, but no, I don't think Jimmy is. I think Jimmy has seen his last days as a starter.
I hope that Fields stuff is just smoke from all these teams, like literally trying to drive his price down so that everybody can go get him on actual draft day. Yes. It's the only thing that makes any sense.
Right, like what has he done to fall? Like, I don't get it.
I mean, let's put it out there. There's something he has that will lead to certain NFL teams not being into him.
Sure.
Right. That's a whole other conversation, but I'm sure that's
and let's face it, Woody, the Johnson family, what they were the past few years, I wouldn't put it past them.
That's so gross. This is when the NFL gets so gross, and that's why again I hope that it's all just smoke screens because otherwise it's just that next level gross. Mm-hmm. But like let's assume hypothetically here, so the 49ers take whoever it is, and at this point, whoever goes there, I'm pretty confident in. Whether it's Fields, whether it truly is Jones, if they really do like him, fine. If it's Trey Lance, I don't care. Like whoever goes there, cool. I'm pretty much going to be on board with you. Mm-hmm. But does that really affect your value on any of the prime pieces there in terms of your Kittle, your wide receivers? Who they slot in there, is that going to adjust your value on those guys, I guess?
The only thing I could think of is if they have someone who's willing to take deep shots, it might hurt whichever guy they feel at the moment is going to be the lower yak guy, the lower ADOT guy. Because
which is Debo,
because let's face it, Garoppolo would never I don't know if he could throw the ball that far, no less, take the risk at throwing it that far. Because we saw the one time he tried in the Super Bowl, like 2 years ago, whatever that was, it didn't work well, so that's the only thing I can think of is if they get a guy who's willing to throw the ball deep and who is good at it, it might hurt a little bit, but still, anything that makes an offense better makes the players better. So getting a competent quarterback will lead to more efficient rushing, which hopefully leads to less attempts, which leads to more pass attempts. So I'm here for them getting fantasy-wise, I'm here for them getting a better quarterback.
I mean, we've seen George Kittle be a stud with like Nick Mullins at quarterback. So Kittle, I'm definitely definitely not worried about. But yeah, like I was saying, I think Debo he's kind of like a secondary running back, really. Like he's only about those behind the line of scrimmage passes. So if they get, like I said, like Fields, I think might want to push the ball down the field more than maybe like a Mac Jones type. So yeah, that is a good point, Jake. I think for Debo in particular, he's probably the one that has the most dependency on what the quarterback is. Ayuk and Kittle, it probably won't change much for me.
Fair.
All right, so I'm going to play one more clip here. Andy had a interesting take on the Ayuk Debo debate here, where Jake and I actually have a beer bet on the same thing. So I'll play the clip. Want to get your guys' opinions on it, and then Jake and I will let you know where we stand on this situation as well.
I'm on Team Debo. It's not an anti-Brandon Ayuk take; it's a pro Debo Samuel take. So if I have to choose one and I don't have to consider which one's going to get hurt, then I think I lean on Debo's side.
So we've got a Team Debo side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, Dustin, wait, do we want to say what our sides are first? I feel like we should keep that veiled at least now and get some honest opinion. We don't want you to feel like you have to woo us here.
Yeah, don't play
as your delightful host. So straight up, I guess the assumption there again, and what Andy referred to in that clip is like, take out the injury history.
Injuries, right?
Because Debo, that's going to be the thing. It's like, how many games is Debo going to actually play? So, and I guess just insert sort of let's say a streamlined quarterback where by necessity, the quarterback doesn't maybe affect these guys. Let's say that hypothetically they're on the same footing with the quarterback. If you had to go Debo versus Ayuk, who would you go?
I go Ayuk.
Okay, yeah, it's pretty easy for me. Ayuk. I just think he's a better receiver. He profiles as like he can be a true number one receiver, even though he won't ever have to be with Kittle in the offense. But Debo is more of just an offensive weapon. Like I said, you kind of get him, his manufactured like screens or end arounds or whatever. But Ayuk just it doesn't matter what the game plan is or who the quarterback is. I think he'll be kind of their X to kind of play alongside Kittle, and Debo will kind of just get in where he can fit in. That's how I see it happening.
Yeah. So, part of the discussion we've had is that, is it possible that Ayuk just got the volume we saw last year because Kittle and Debo were both injured?
Oh, 100%, yes.
So the big discussion here is how does that all play out once all three are healthy? Obviously, we know Kittle's going to get his. That is the number one option in that offense. But which one of those players is going to be the better value between the wide receivers?
At that point, yes. If we're talking value, you might want to just go for the cheapest. And that will be Debo, just because he's
their ADP is going to be curious, right, to see how far because you have to
couple rounds maybe. Do we think it'll be a couple of rounds difference? Do you think?
Wow. Yeah, I'm about to say if it's pretty close, then I might kind of snag Debo. Like I guess I'm kind of expecting Debo to be kind of the forgotten man. Well, not completely forgotten, but I would have guessed like Ayuk would be at least like 4 or 5 because he was like a wide receiver 1 status last year. So obviously, like with Debo and Kittle back, he won't get that range, but he could still be a solid wide receiver 2, kind of the mid and low end. Versus Debo is going to be he's like that flex kind of wide receiver 3 for me.
All right, so I pulled up. I know you said you're mostly redraft, but here I pulled up DLF ADP for March. Ayuk is wide receiver 21, coming in at an ADP of about 48. And Debo is wide receiver 37 with an ADP of about 72.
That's going to be a big gulf. And I don't know if it closes by the time we get closer to the drafts there. Right. That's going to be at least, it's
going to go further. It's going to get further.
4 to 5 rounds at a minimum then, to your point there, Andrew, like it's not going to be close. It's not going to be close for value, or it's not going to be close for their ADP. Even at that point, let's say that their value is a full 5 rounds apart. Are you both still Team Ayuk?
As long as Ayuk, I can get in like the 5th round.
I was about to say, like, if Ayuk, he's kind of sneaking up into that top 20 receiver range, that might be a little rich. But if he kind of stays like right where he is, I would still go ahead and go with Ayuk because I'm not sure. Just like Debo is going to be very, very reliable when everybody is healthy.
Dustin, we've been a full split now. We are a full bottom side of the screen and a full top side of the screen. Now, our beer bet, we are both preferential for Debo. I actually think it'll be closer in their end of season finishes. I believe the bet was like within 5 to 6 spots of each other, something like that. Will they finish that closely, or because we wanted to make the bet straight up, Debo versus Ayuk, and we're actually both on Debo's side of this. And so it became like, well, how far apart are they going to finish from each other? And Dustin, you're definitely much higher on the Debo side than I am. It kept telling me because I believe
it's going to be closer. And Jake, you think it's going to be further away?
I think it's going to be closer. I think it's going to be close. I think they will be very close to each other with end of year finishes. Because, Andrew, as what you said earlier, is like he's a guy where you kind of manufacture touches, but I think that Shanahan's offense is going to manufacture those type of touches because they're so focused on their players, like a Belichick. You know, like we don't just run a scheme all the time. We run a scheme to fit the players that we have.
Well, they absolutely got the players to fit their scheme. Like they absolutely did. Like they spent up. They didn't have to draft Ayuk that early, but they knew he was the perfect fit for them. So you might as well just go get him, right?
Yeah, like the people laughed at him too when he was drafted. Like, what the hell is he doing? But yeah, Ayuk bought out.
Now it's dynasty after seeing what the Dolphins did, and the Rams and Detroit. But 2 years ago, it really was, or last year, like. You don't just trade back 5 spots because you can get your guy a little later. Like that's not how the NFL draft works. Okay, so yeah, Justin Jefferson might still be there. I don't remember if he really was. I'm just saying this off the top of my head. But like Ayuk is the better fit. We're not going to be dumb. We're just going to take this because the chances are if we get anyone to trade up 4 or 5 spots, it's not worth the 6th round pick of chance of losing our guy. So let me just take our guy.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Fair. Dustin, do we feel like we're on our heels here? Do we need to adjust things?
No. Do not.
I feel like it's planted, man. That's
I have plenty of wrong takes.
I want to be absorbent of other information that comes my way. I don't want to be that locked in guy that just is like, you know what? I made this back in January and I'm not changing my tune now.
Yeah, but I think this is just this will be one of those curious, wide receiver rooms that we really don't know what's gonna go down. So yeah, kind of just pick a side and see how it shakes out.
Fair.
And what are the chances do you think that San Francisco drafts another running back here?
High.
I mean, they need to have another one. I mean, they lost Tevin Coleman.
Well,
so, I mean, they need someone to replace him. They got to have at least 7 running backs on their squad at any given time.
So, but I was kind of thinking. I said this one earlier this morning. Actually, kind of guessing my my main running back spots. So I would have been in that same camp too. But once I kind of started doing the math of how many viable rookie running backs are there and how many openings are there, I actually think San Francisco is probably more 4th or 5th on the list of running back needs. So I think Falcons will take a running back before them. I think the Jets will. I think the Dolphins will. And at that point, I think it's kind of between the Steelers and the Cardinals as far as so there could be 5 other running backs that go and then at that point, San Francisco is taking, who's the 6th best running back in this class? Somebody like Jamar Jefferson or something. So I actually think between what are their running backs? Mostert and Jeff Wilson. Yeah. They might end up kind of sneaking past free agency and the draft and kind of going into the season as the top 2 guys. Because like I said, there are only so many running backs that are starting caliber of this class, and I just think other teams need it more than them.
Yeah, they're not going to spend real capital on a running back. They don't.
Right.
I mean,
they'll get
as they've had.
Yep.
Yeah, like Jerick McKinnon. They're going to wait. That's fine. And it never. Shanahan offenses, even his father, it never mattered which running back.
He could plug one of us in there, and we'll get 75 yards at least.
No, maybe I will get a firm 8 yards on the season. Season, I would
for you going positive yards, man. Good for you.
But like I said, we've seen pretty much any capable NFL running back light it up in that system. So yeah, I don't think they're going to get any of the the top running backs. It'll probably be somebody like the 4th or 5th round.
Do you think that they could go on the really delayed wait for free agency to get one of those? I mean, Jerick McKinnon was a free agent pull that they got, not so long ago because he was cast off from from Minnesota there. Is there anybody that's even lingering right now that kind of makes sense for them? Like, I hate to keep throwing around James Conner, but he is just the man without a land right now. Like, if they are waiting.
Mostert, I don't see anybody that would be better than Mostert or even Jeff Wilson. Like Wilson, like I said, he did exactly what they needed him to do in that system. So yeah, I think they're gonna get another undrafted, unheralded guy like JaMychal Hasty or whatever, and he'll have 1 or 2 monster games, and you sell him for a 3rd round pick.
Sounds like a go trade for Mostert podcast right now, and I may be doing that right after we get off air, honestly.
I mean, like, if you're like one of those, like win now teams, and you're kind of like, a RB2 away from competing, I would. I mean, I probably wouldn't give too much. Like, what is Mostert, 28, 29? Like,
he's older.
The wheels can fall off at any point. But yeah, I mean, if somebody like maybe a couple thirds or something, somebody that just has done with them,
those wheels are already held up there with duct tape, man. That's
right.
They're barely on there.
Fast. He's so fast.
All right, then one last question here, and then we'll get out of here. So, George Kittle, we know he's going to get dinged up and probably miss a couple of games every single season. Just the way he plays the game, which, P.S., I love how he plays the game. I love his enthusiasm on the field. Like, it's amazing. But we know he's going to get dinged up and probably miss some time and or be hobbled when he's out there on the field. Is he worth taking in round 2 for redraft and or dynasty purposes?
Yes.
100%.
I still think so, man. Yeah, like 12 games of Kittle is better than like 75% of other tight ends for the rest of the season. Like, after seeing what Kelsey did for so many teams this past year, like I'm all about reaching for like those top 3 tight ends.
For the positional advantage, it's absolutely worth it, especially if there's an ounce of premium for tight end scoring.
Yeah,
easily the 2nd round. I'd take Kittle. Well, I'd take Kelsey in the 1st, but Kittle in the 2nd.
Right. It's like I wasn't really part of that. Like, I always just felt weird about taking a tight end in the 1st round. But like after this past year, like if I'm taking Kelsey after probably like Saquon, CMC, maybe like Dalvin Cook. But like after those, bell cow running backs, I'm taking Kelsey. Just like I said, when you score 10 more points on average than every other tight end, it's just like a cheat code pretty much.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I drafted Kittle in Scott Fishbowl last year, and even like those 6 games that I got of him, and I took him in the 2nd round. I was like, I'm so happy with this guy. Like, what was I going to get other than Kittle? Does it matter? No, I'm fine. Like, I appreciate your 6 games, George.
Yep.
Yeah, but man, just give us at least 14, George. Let's get 14 out of it, man. Like,
absolutely.
Football is better when Kittle's on the field.
For sure.
All right. Well, I think that's it, unless you guys have any last thoughts here. I do want to get each of your takes on how you think the teams are going to finish in the division here. And really lean into your homer bias, too, if you so choose. So, Andrew, why don't we start with you here? Put you on the spot.
All right, I'll start from the bottom. That's easier. So I think the 49ers. They're going to be a team to continue with in the next couple of years. But I think this year they'll probably kind of have to take the seat back. God,
you can do it, man. I'm going to do it too.
Yeah. I'm all right. I'm finally calling it now. Again, this is probably more homerism or just hope that Seattle is finally done. But I think Seattle's reign of being on top is finally done. I think I'd say like Russell Wilson will probably just get pissed off after he gets sacked like 30 times in the first 8 weeks and just start kind of. Well, I mean, he's not going to give up because he's not that type of guy. But I don't know. I think I'm just kind of putting that in the atmosphere that they'll kind of just do this little mini meltdown and go like. I almost said 8-8. We can't say it anymore, huh? And go like what 8-9, which that's so
8-8-1, man. They'll get that tie in there.
8-1. So I would say put Seattle 3rd and then like Arizona 2nd. I'm calling it. I'm saying the Rams. I'll say we take the division, and Stafford is the quarterback that McVay has been looking for, and it's a happy marriage that leads to a couple NFC West. So we got Rams. So I got Rams, Arizona, Seattle, San Francisco from top to bottom.
Let's end this podcast in this rivalry podcast in a moment of unity and togetherness, because I agreed exactly what he said.
my goodness. Oh, my actual goodness.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah, man.
I wasn't prepared for that.
It's getting back, dude.
I think it's just the truth. Like, Goff was what was holding that team back. Like, just you don't even need 10 other dudes. Aaron Donald by himself can run a defense. You know,
Pretty much.
and they have, and not to mention they have really good players at every position. Like, no, like seriously, if Stafford can just pick up that offense quickly enough, like, and there isn't like that. You know, like Shanahan, the first year of a Shanahan offense is always a little rough. Like, if he could just walk in and take up that offense, but he's been in a lot of offensive Stafford, so he might be just better at up by now.
I can imagine it kind of being like with Brady and the Buccaneers, where like every now and then you'll kind of have that, you know, what the fuck game. We're like, all right, what's going on here? But, you know, by the end of the year, if they can kind of get on the same page and start clicking. And the other thing we didn't really mention too was just with the Cardinals, the offensive line upgrades. I will kind of commend them and that's one of the reasons why I ended up putting them over Seattle, because I think like with Rodney Hudson and I can't remember who the other lineman they picked up recently, but I think they're definitely beefing up that offensive line, which for them, like Goff was holding back the Rams offense. I think the offensive line was kind of holding back the Cardinals offense from kind of being a top tier one. So I think the Cardinals and the Rams will kind of have a fun battle for the top this year.
Yep, I'm here for it.
I love this.
Let's
Look
go.
at what we did,
Football.
Dustin.
It's
We
easy to be this way in
together.
April. Wait till September, like, you know.
You guys, I'm going to look for the Twitter exchanges come September and October where you're just at each other's throats constantly.
Absolutely, right? This will all go out the window.
But I love this moment of peace that we've been able to achieve.
I'm going to use all capitals and exclamation points, being like, "You are a beautiful man, and you called this right."
In your most aggressively sweet gift that you can pull up at the moment.
All right. Well, before we get out of here, gentlemen, Russ, why don't you tell the folks where they can find you and what you're about?
All right. Well, I am at Dynasty Outhouse on Twitter. I host many podcasts. The Trade Addicts podcast with at Dynasty FF Addict, Rocky Petrella. I do Dynasty Game Night with Matt Price and John Bosch. I've just melded them into one person. Because, sure, why not? Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network is my podcast network with, I can never remember. Hold on, I have a mouse pad right here. Trade Addicts, Fantasy Timeline, Dynasty Junkies, and Get Real with Casey Kasem. Subscribe to that to get all those awesome shows. And then, of course, the DLF family of podcasts where, too many shows for me to remember, and I don't have a mouse pad for that. So, but open a podcast and there's a chance I might be on it. So that's cool. That's really about it. Say hi to me on Twitter. I like talking to people.
All right. And Andrew, where can people find you and what you're doing?
Yeah, man. So I'm at Drew Met, DREWMET_FF, and I'm actually more just about content creation. So I write for a few different sites, mainly focus on Dynasty content. But so a few of the sites I write for at Real Deal Fantasy, at Club Fantasy, and I just recently started writing for Pro Football Mania. So again, every now and then, just kind of be on the lookout for some Dynasty articles. I'll drop, just kind of giving my advice or some guys I like to sell or buy on, and then every blue moon I'll kind of make a facial appearance with a good show on. Look, facial appearance, that was bad wording, but
no, that was perfect. I don't think you should change a single thing about it.
Every now and then I'll show my face on a fun pod like this, but that's me, man. Just the Dynasty guy.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming on. It was a real treat, and you're welcome back anytime on our show. Jake, why don't you tell the folks where they can find you out there?
I'm on the Twitter at Jake Trowbridge.
And you can find our podcast at Drinking Fantasy on Twitter, and you can find me at FF Dusty Dog. And until next week, folks, keep drinking and talking fantasy football.
Cheers, FFers.